Recovery is not a solo endeavor. It's a team sport. You need a community around you to cheer you on, to lend an ear, to pick you back up when you fall. That's what Foundation's Recovery Network's Life Challenge program is here for. We are a positive, motivational community aimed at breaking down life's barriers and celebrating the accomplishments along the way. Our motto is, Dear Life, Challenge Accepted. Are you up for the challenge? Go to lcaccepted.com or call 615-221-5861.
That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
Yo, what's up? Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks to Humans for bringing us in, and thanks to you for supporting the show. It's great to be back. Always happy to bring you Sober Guy Radio from Northern California. So thanks to everybody for supporting the show and the recovery movement, and really glad to be here today. Very grateful. We're going to start with some gratitude, always a good thing. Real quick, we had a damn good time at the Innovations in Recovery Conference down in San Diego recently. We really met some great people, made some great connections. We put out some content, which I'll get to in just a minute. We saw some great things too. The family came down. We saw Budge training live on the beach in Coronado, which was just phenomenal. I don't know how those dudes do what they do, but it was pretty amazing. We watched a pelican shit on our neighbor's balcony twice, which was quite interesting. We did some shows on video game addiction, on treatment, all kinds of good stuff. Talked to Patrick Smith from Orange County Recovery Services, great dude. Paid $6 for a bottled water and $28 for 3 tacos, but I guess that's Coronado, so a beautiful place. What a great time. Like I said, we released all 11 episodes. Those just came out recently, and you can find those and more resources at www.thatsoberguy.com, as well as on iTunes. Thanks again to all who participated in the event, and of course, thanks to Foundation's Recovery Network for having us down. Real quick, and then we're going to get to our guest today. One of the tools that I use is Transitions Daily. It's a daily AA email, and it's delivered right to my inbox. Really a great way for me to start my day, and I'm sure it would help you out too. It takes me about 5 minutes to read. It's one of my favorite tools. You can go to dailyaaemails.com for more information. And then also be sure to check out the new treatment program, DXRX. DXRX provides access to alcohol treatment specialists, safe medication, and ongoing monitoring for people who want to stop or reduce their drinking, and it's all done through a simple phone app. If you go to thatsoberguy.com, you'll see the DXRX logo, stronger than alcohol, on the right-hand side. Click on the logo to get started today. All right, today's guest is Zack Gowen. And Zack is one of the most inspirational athletes in the world, overcoming a broken home, childhood cancer, leg amputation, as well as drug and alcohol addiction. He's the world's first one-leg professional wrestler, former WWE superstar, former American Ninja Warrior contestant, which I can't wait to tell my daughter Lucy about because she loves American Ninja Warrior. She's like practicing it in the backyard. Now he's an inspirational speaker with CoolSpeak LLC, carrying a message of hope to students across the country, and works with the Range of Motion Project, which gives amputees in developing countries access to proper prosthetic care. He lives in Detroit with his wife and his 2 boys, age 1 and 4. Zack, my friend, so stoked to have you on today, dude. I gotta say, I don't know or didn't know, other than like Jake the Snake and Hulk Hogan and like the classic wrestlers back in the day, dude. Like you have quite the persona in WWE and professional wrestling, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that, and of course, your struggles with alcohol and drug addiction too. So thanks, man. Thanks so much for joining the show today. It's a pleasure to have you, my friend.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you, Shane. Thank you so much for having me. Shout out to Buddy C for making this happen out in Georgia.
Yes, Buddy. Yes, man. So cool, man, how he connected us, and God's doing some amazing things in all of our lives, and it's just really, really cool. So yeah, it's how did that happen, by the way? You guys met at a conference, I understand?
Yeah, there was a big recovery convention in the Detroit area where I'm from and where I live. And well,
part of the recovered podcast, right?
Yeah,
yes,
Buddy is a major contributor to the Recovered cast.
That's awesome. Shout out to them.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Mark and the crew there, and I'm on there quite a bit as well. And so that's how we got to know each other. And then he came up from Georgia to do help us do the live podcast. It was our first live podcast in front of a live studio audience, which was interesting and a lot of fun.
That's cool.
And we did that at the conference, and Buddy was there, and we got to talking, and Buddy's like, "Hey, you got to meet my buddy Shane." And I'm like, "Sure, I'm down to meet anybody, man. Any like-minded individuals at any time I can share in some experience, strength, and hope, and then dive into the solution. I'm all for, man. So this is how that came to be."
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out today to sit in with us, and I'm really excited to share your story and get to know you a little bit. One of the things I found on YouTube, man, as I was doing a little research for this conversation, the top 30 moves of Zack Gowen in the WWE, man. And so I think some older stuff too, even before WWE. But dude, like, how do you do what you do, man? Like, what does it take physically, mentally? I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Thank you. And I don't know. To answer your question is I don't know. People ask me all the time. They say, how do you wrestle on one leg? How is that possible? And my answer is simply I don't know. I've never wrestled on two. So there really isn't. I can't compare it to anything. I do know that since a young age, I've had a drive and a determination and a passion for professional wrestling. I mean, when I was a kid, growing up without a dad and without a leg, and as a cancer survivor, I felt different, and I felt ugly, and I felt defective, and I felt like I didn't quite fit in to anything. But all of that, all of those feelings and emotions went away when I engaged in professional wrestling, when I watched it, when I tapped into the magic of it, and so that love developed at a very young age. And so when I had the opportunity to train and go at it, then I hopped at the no pun intended, but I hopped at the opportunity, and everything kind of came from that initial determination and love of professional wrestling.
Sure, man. That's some legit stuff right there, dude. And it's inspiring to hear, and especially just knowing kind of what you've been through. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. One of the things I want to address first, I'm getting a little bit of feedback from sound. So I don't know if it's your mic on your headphones, maybe if it can kind of, it may have just been moving a little bit, but just a heads up on that. And then next to that, one of the questions or thoughts that I had jotted down. There you go. You there? Zach.
Sorry about that.
Zach, there you go. All right, we got you back. Got you. You there?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Sorry
perfect.
about that.
That's okay, man. It's all part of the experience. I love it, man. This tech stuff is so crazy. Like, Buddy, we just did that conference down in San Diego, and Buddy was helping me do the Mixler live chat and all that stuff. Dude, I must have done like 10 sound checks. Everything was legit to go. We were going to go live, and I went to go live on the first day of the conference, and boom, I don't know what the hell happened, but something happened, and I had no sound from our guest, and it was just kind of one of those things that just you can't really understand or explain. You just got to roll with. So point being, while I get to rambling completely off the subject, is tech shit happens, and it's all good. So
I don't think we're quite there yet. I think we're about 5 to 10 years away in terms of like Bluetooth technology and all the tech and communication and video and all that stuff. Like, the idea is great, and we'll get there someday, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
Nope, I agree, man. We're close though. We're close, so we'll keep plugging away. Let me get back to the point here. One of the things that super important part, by the way, or point, being that we've dealt with this in our community just last week, with kids who are either going through things in their families, dysfunctional homes, alcoholism, addiction, being bullied, and they end up taking a route of suicide. And we just had something recently, like I mentioned, in our community. It is extremely difficult to hear and to address. How do you talk to these kids, and let them know that there's hope and that there are people out there like yourself who have experienced adversity and struggles and bullying, and have been able to come through it and actually come out on top and be able to give back. I guess the question I have for you is, there's two parts to it. How did you deal with that as a kid, that adversity, being picked on? I know you'd mentioned that before in one of the interviews that I had saw. And then what advice can you give today to a kid out there listening who might be going through some stuff? Where could they turn?
Yeah, I didn't deal with it until at an advanced age, until I got sober and until I started working on myself. Then I was really able to dive deep and clean up all of that crap and all that baggage that I carried for a very long time, And the most important thing for me in recovery is the ability to ask for help.
Yeah.
Not only ask for help, but be able to receive help. And that's such an important component to working through situations, because I don't know about you, but I'm under the belief that life is too difficult to handle on my own.
I agree, man.
And I think that's a universal thing. And for me, the most important thing was to get that, to have that role model or that mentor, or that somebody who's been through similar experiences and found a way out, and that person sharing that with me. And that's why I consider the work that I do with CoolSpeak in terms of talking to these kids, going into these communities, where the biggest problem in these communities, it's not a socioeconomic, it's not a race thing. The biggest problem is lack of male role models, and it's broken homes and not a lot of structure or discipline at a young age within these homes. And so being able to interact and connect with these kids, and not only speak to them or do workshops with them, but stay in contact with them after the fact, that I can be, a strong male role model. And that's so important for little boys to have, but maybe even more important for girls to have too. So they know what a healthy adult male looks like and what that relationship looks like. And so that's why I consider the work that I do more important in terms of speaking and getting into the community, more important than the wrestling and the Ninja Warrior stuff.
Sure.
It's actually making a connection with these kids and hopefully making a difference in their lives and then the people around them too.
So when you're in there speaking to this group of young adults and kids, do you talk specifically about some of the things that you went through as a kid?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, if you would you mind elaborating on that a little bit?
Not at all. I talk about my first memory in life is me hiding underneath the sink in the cabinet at 3 years old, watching my dad rough up my mom.
Damn.
And that's the first memory I have in my life. My dad was an alcoholic and an addict, and the home was an abusive home, and it wasn't safe. And that the whole idea is for a home is to have the sanctuary where you can go and get that love and support. And I never had it. And so by talking about this, what I do is what I try to do is lift the stigma or the shame, and shine some light on the pain of it all. And to me, that resonates with a lot of kids, because a lot of kids are in similar experiences or have gone through similar experiences, but they don't know how to talk about it. Yeah. And that's their normal. That's what their normal looks like. And to me, that's unacceptable, because as a member of the community and as somebody who's been through that, and as somebody who's reasonably happy and useful now, I see it as a responsibility to carry that message that, life happens to us. It's not always how we plan, but life isn't about what happens to us. It's about how we respond to what happens to us. And then I want to equip these students with the tools and the know-how to ask for help, to receive for help, and to take action. and this is all stuff that I learned in recovery. I didn't know any of this stuff until I started that journey of recovery. And so a lot of it is still carrying that message. And what I do, I mean, if you're in a 12-step program and you come to one of my talks, you've probably heard everything I've said. You know, I'm really just taking the message of what I've learned from recovery and bringing it to these kids. I think it's applicable, and I think it's universal, and I think it's needed.
Yeah, man. One of the things you mentioned about the father figure, and I had a buddy of mine, Trevor, on the show a few episodes back, and he had talked about at a life change event that he helped facilitate and do some prayer at. He said one of the main things that these grown men were coming up and asking for forgiveness for and for prayer for was, he said almost every one of them, and there was a lot of them because I've been to the event previously, almost everyone was something to do with their dad, something to do with their father. And it is such an important aspect for us as men, and I think for girls too, for little girls when they're young, to see that father figure. And mind you, being a dad is not always the easiest thing in the world, but we learn as we go, and we try to do the best we can. At least we should be trying to do that. How much do you see that in, and I know you kind of mentioned it already, but how, I guess more to the point, to kind of focus in a little bit on that, how much are you seeing that when you're going into these schools with these kids? How is it most of them? Is it half of them? Is it all of them? Like, what are you seeing in the ones that are really struggling, the lack of a father figure in their life?
That's the number one offender in the in a lot of these schools in which I go to. I go to the inner city a lot, Philadelphia, Chicago, Detroit, and that's the number one issue that I see. It's lack of role models, lack of leadership, lack of healthy adult males passing on their experience to these little boys and little girls.
Yeah.
And that's what I experienced too growing up, because it wasn't just my dad leaving at 4. I had a stepdad, but he was emotionally just so unavailable, and he instilled a lot of discipline and some abuse too, but there was never a foundation of love, and there was never like an understanding of, well, I thought I was just being punished and I was a bad kid or something, Yeah. And so I never had that connection with a male role model until I got into recovery. Until I started the journey of getting sober and staying sober, and that was hard for me, because when you have a lack of male leadership, for me, I got angry about it, and so I had a discipline problem, and I was always in trouble in school, and I had complete lack of respect for authority. And I was always in trouble with teachers, with principals, with school bus drivers, with the police, all of that. And I see how it's all connected now. Going through it, I didn't. But you're really setting up a kid for a lifetime of struggles if you don't have that leadership and that role model, that figure there to. It doesn't have to be their dad. It just has to be somebody there to show them what a healthy adult male looks like.
So Zach, I wanna back up just a bit, and I think we mentioned in the intro that you had battled cancer when you were a kid. Can you talk a little bit about that, and then how that kind of changed your life?
Sure. So when I was 8 years old, and a soccer ball collided with my left knee, and it sprained my knee completely. And over the course of the next 7, 8, 9 months, my leg never healed. In fact, it kept breaking and re-breaking, and I was in a lot of pain, and we couldn't figure out why. And so finally, they did a biopsy where they cut me open, and it took some cell samples and all this stuff. And the results came back that the reason why my leg broke in the first place, and the reason why it never healed, was because of a tumor growing on my left femur, right above my left knee. Yep. And it was a late diagnosis. And so the only course of action to give me the best chance at seeing my 9th birthday, they had to take drastic action, and that was the amputation, because they were afraid that the cancer was going to spread to the rest of my body and kill me. And so it happened right after the diagnosis. I'm saying like 6 weeks after that, I wake up one morning without a leg.
Do you find it ironic that like a soccer ball found your knee and like broke your leg? You know what I mean? That whole process there is kind of amazing in a sense, and not amazing in a good way. Obviously you lost your leg, but it is in a good way at the same time, because what if that soccer ball never hits you and breaks your leg? You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of ironic, man.
Yep. And that's, and we never know what an event will lead to. We never know, and that was certainly the first domino in the chain of dominoes that got knocked down. But yeah, and to think about this too, because a lot of kids in that hospital where I was at, Children's Hospital in Detroit, had the exact same cancer I did, and they didn't make it out.
Really?
They didn't make it out. Yes. So many of those children, and I carry their spirits and their stories and their message with me wherever I go, because for some reason or another, I made it out. And I have a voice and they don't have a voice. And so I try to carry their memories with me wherever I go. And I try to honor that because I had no say in whether I lived or died. And that even extends to my my drug addiction and alcoholism. I had no say whether I lived or died, or if I surrendered to the process of recovery. Like, I had no say in that. Whatever came first came first. We tell people all the time, well, you have to surrender. And it's not something you can do on your own volition. You see what I'm saying? It's a surrender just happens. It's something that occurs. It's an event. It's not something that you can kind of create within yourself. And so I was gifted the gift of surrender. And just like when I was a kid, I was gifted the gift of life. Because if my point is this, if they discovered my cancer early on, they would have performed a limb salvage where they would have gone in, removed the tumor, and then put a rod where the bone was, and I'd have 2 legs. But to like 3 or 4 of the kids that had that surgery in the hospital with me, the cancer came back. They didn't get it all the first time, and then they died. So it was almost. I look at it as a blessing that it didn't get diagnosed until so late in the game, where they had to take completely drastic action, because that saved my life, And obviously, it's a terrible situation, and I can't wrap my mind around it, even to this day. And I'm not sure if it's for me to wrap my mind around. But what I do know is that I have the responsibility to carry the message of hope and survival to people that need to hear it, because that's the deal I made with God. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, I'm God's hands and foot, as the case may be. I can carry that. I can carry His message here in the physical world. And in return, He has given me a life full of joy and liberty. And to me, it's a very fair trade. And to me, that's what grace is, and not getting what I deserve, so to speak. And there's a lot of gratitude at the foundation of that.
Well, I love that you point that out and that you carry that message. Number one, in kind of in honor of those who didn't make through that struggle of cancer, like you said, when you were a kid. So you keep that at the forefront. I'm assuming that probably drives you, or that's a component of what drives you to a lot of the work that you do. And then on top of that, the ability to recognize when God gives us a gift, and when God gives us something that may seem like, just even addiction at first. I mean, there's a great example of people who have fought through addiction and have been able to maintain sobriety and turn around and give back. I look at that, for me, just something like that as a gift. I'm getting a ton of feedback from something on your end, Zach.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm in the car and it started raining. So there's a sound of rain hitting the windshield.
I was wondering. I was like, man, is he like typing or something right now? What is that? I thought maybe you were like so talented you could speak and type that shit as fast as you could speak.
Speak, type, awesome, and drive at the same time.
Like, damn, he is one talented dude.
I'm not sure what I can do about it.
It's all good, man. We're gonna roll with it. Rain is rain. Anyways, man, I love that you kind of focus in on that and you point that out, because that's obviously a huge part of recovery, and Buddy has really been able to encourage me on this and show me some things about being powerless and understanding that that God does have a plan for us, and when we kind of give it up to Him, things will tend to fall in place. And those things might not always be good things too, right? I mean, those like things with adversity at the same time. But so let's kind of fast forward a little bit. You fight through cancer. My son's in the background going crazy back there too. He's a little animal. That dude's off the hook. But you fight through the cancer as a kid. You lose your leg. You already kind of talked about going through some of that stuff, which I can't even imagine what that was like being a kid and having to deal with punk ass other kids who are kids too, and they probably don't know any better, a lot of them, but they're probably not the nicest to you. I mean, can you touch on that just a little bit more before we move ahead? And I want to jump into wrestling and kind of how you got into wrestling and how that part of your career actually started.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. And that's it's kind of counterintuitive. I was never kind of picked on or bullied, anything like that. Because even like the worst kids, they had a limit. They drew a line in the sand.
Really?
Which is like, yeah, we're like, we can't pick on the kid with cancer who has one leg. Like, we can't go that far.
Yeah, that's good to hear, because I was picturing these little bastards just like giving you hell, and I wanted to go back in time and like smack the crap out of them.
No, man, no,
Good.
I never really experienced any of that. The pain for me came just in terms of how I felt about myself. Like I said, I felt ugly and defective and weird and on the outside looking in, due to the experiences that kind of happened to me. So that's where the pain came from. It didn't come from really other kids. The community was supportive. The schools were supportive.
So it's very internal then, very internal, insecure, and just kind of dealing with self and figuring out who you are as a kid, and this person who's different. And man, I can't imagine what that's like.
All that, yeah, and then try to go through high school with that. With that feeling and that baggage.
Sure.
Try talking to girls and learning how to dress and dance and all that kind of stuff. It was painful. The whole thing was painful.
So how did you kind of transition into well, I know you've already mentioned this, that you didn't learn a lot of this until you got into recovery. So I know we're kind of all over the place here, but we'll get to that, I think, towards more into the conversation towards the end. But how do you transition into out of high school, and you already have a love for wrestling? What happens that takes you into a career in wrestling, doing this career that is, it's extremely physical, and there's a lot to it, and you have one leg, you've been through this, this cancer and all this stuff. Like, how does your life start at that point?
Well, I was always a really good athlete, but I never had an outlet to show that off, because I couldn't run and keep up with my friends in basketball or football or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until I started wrestling in high school that I found an outlet for me to get creative with my athleticism. And my love of professional wrestling started way before that. And I knew that I wanted to go to wrestling school, and I wanted to get trained to be a wrestler. That's all I knew. And I credit a lot of my success to me being extremely naive, because sorry, it's raining really hard.
Man, I know I was going to say it is pouring right now. It's all good,
man.
It's bad.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah. That's just God showing us some love. He's letting us know He's here in the combo, I think, man. He's saying, "What's up, fellas? What's up, homies?"
We're open to it, aren't we?
Yeah.
So it was never an option. It was never an idea for me to have a career as a professional wrestler. I didn't get into wrestling because I wanted a career or because I wanted to inspire people. I got in for very selfish reasons, which is I love professional wrestling and I want to be a part of it, and I want to be a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
And so, but once I got into it and I trained and I learned that there was something there in terms of my story and connecting with an audience and using the art, so to speak, to engage and connect with an audience, and I realized how marketable that was.
Yeah.
That's when everything kind of took off. So I got signed to WWE less than a year after I had my first match, which is incredible. Most guys take 7 to 12 years just to get a look, and you have to hone your craft and evolve and get better and make connections and grow. But for me, it happened right away.
Because part of it is not only the physical aspect, which I'm sure is grueling, but there's also the character aspect of it, right? So, I mean, you have to have kind of both of those, and for you to do it within a year is pretty amazing.
It's unbelievable, and it really speaks to the marketability of being the first fill in the blank in history, you know, whatever that is. And WWE saw dollar signs right away. They'd scoop me up really, really quick. Threw me on TV with Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper and Vince McMahon and John Cena and all those guys. And
dude,
it went 0 to 100 real quick.
Well, I saw the video of Brock Lesnar hitting you with the chair and then banging your leg on a steel pole multiple times. What was that like, man?
Yeah, painful.
Yeah, I bet. I was like, geez, man, this and he was a mean looking dude in that. He wasn't giving you no mercy.
No, I'm grateful that happened when I was 20 rather than 34, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the body definitely responds differently at 20 versus 34.
It's unbelievable, yeah.
Well, I'm sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know, obviously in a physical sport like that, there's a lot of injuries and pain, like you said, from getting your leg hit on a pole, and various other types of abuse that your body takes in a career like that, in a job like that, on the day-to-day basis. From what the little knowledge I have, and I'm going to let you school me on this, of course, but the little knowledge I do have is that obviously there is some medication involved when in trying to recover, trying to deal with pain. Is that kind of what led to your addiction, or was there something else that started from?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't the pain. I took pain pills because I liked the way they made me feel. I never took them because I was in pain. And so what really catapulted that was my drinking. I fell in love with drinking. And it was when I was with WWE. So, you know, you're on the road, you're hanging out with guys that, you know, are in their 20s, late 20s. We're performers. We go to bars. Yeah. There's the women aspect of it. There's, you know, we're all making money. It's a giant party, so to speak. Or at least the guys I was hanging out with, that's kind of what we did. Yeah. And so it really started with drinking and that whole kind of escape from what we did, and kind of went along with the job. Yeah. You know, it's like, all right, well, you're on national TV, and for me, like, I was a kid in the candy store because I was so insecure and weird. Yeah. You know, I'm literally like a year out of high school. Where girls wouldn't talk to me, or even if they did talk to me, it was I wouldn't talk to them because I didn't know what to say, and it was awful. So now you have, you know, women throwing themselves at me, and I'm the popular kid, and I'm on TV. So my whole lifestyle changed dramatically, you know, and so the partying just kind of became part of it, but it never was like problematic. It took a while for it to develop into like a habit, you know.
Well, I appreciate your honesty too, and just saying like, no, I just like to get high, or I like to drink. You know what I mean? Like that's how it started, and I think that even for myself, I forget that sometimes too. I like to say, well, you know, I was going through this, or I was going through that, but that's ultimately the same for me, and I feel like it's probably safe to say for a lot of people is like we just enjoy getting high and escaping that reality and having some fun.
No. Yeah, we really, really, really love it. like we love it so intensely. Yeah. We love it so much more than anybody else who experienced it. I remember the first time I got high and drunk at the same time. We're walking with my buddies, and we're outside on a sidewalk, and I stopped. And I grabbed them by their shoulders, And I said, look at me. I go, do you guys feel the way I feel right now? It was to the next level. It was a different dimension. You know, if you're in recovery, they have from the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, they have the promises that are read at some of the meetings, right? The 9-step promises.
Yeah.
And at that moment, all of those promises came true for me. Like the first time, like we really, really, really like it. And that's the problem.
No, I have people ask me too, well, what did it feel like to be high on ecstasy, or what, ecstasy was a great example for this example in particular, because I would say, well, imagine that you win the lottery. Okay. I can only imagine what that feels like. That's what ecstasy feels like. And then imagine you lose all that money the next day when the ecstasy wears off. That's pretty much how it feels. And then you got to deal with life again. And so that cycle there, man, you start getting caught in that, and, man, it can be absolutely brutal.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's a great description. I'm going to steal that from you.
Absolutely, man. I love it. So you're living this new lifestyle, and I mean, got to be just intense. A young kid right out of high school, this new career, like life just flips 180. Now you're starting to get girls coming onto you, and alcohol and drugs, and you're on TV, and like this whole persona and lifestyle is born. Take us through, how that gets to where it starts to become an issue when you start really abusing alcohol, drugs, and start to realize like, hey, I might have a problem.
It wasn't until after I got fired. So I came in, I signed a 3-year contract, and I became this persona.
Yeah.
And my whole image and self-esteem and self-worth was wrapped up in this job. And that's what it was. It was a job. It wasn't who I was, right? But I got that mixed up because I didn't have the tools to kind of understand, to see what it was.
Yeah.
And so when they fired me a year in, you go, it's a great example of winning a lottery and then losing it all the next day.
Yeah.
Because then the job goes, right? So now the job's gone. It's like, oh shit, what do I do now? And then the fame fades away, and it fades away a lot quicker than you would imagine.
Yeah.
You're off for TV for 2 weeks, and then people have no idea who you are.
Wow.
So when the fame starts to go away, then it's like, all right, well, I still have, my lifestyle, and I still have the girlfriends, and I still have the money. But then the money dries up because there's no money coming in, right? Yeah. And then once the money dries up, and then the girls stop hanging, and it's like all of a sudden
the dominoes fall, huh?
Yeah, man, the house of cards, dude. And I'm laying in a pile of 52 pickup. And I don't know what's going on, but the one thing that was consistent and the one thing that brought me relief was drugs and alcohol, and they never went away. In fact, they were in my life a lot more at this point. And people, they draw this conclusion of like, oh, because you're in WWE and that's why you got fired, and that's why you're an addict and all that. It's like, no, man, I was primed for it. I just needed I just needed one straw to break that camel's back.
Yeah.
I had trauma in my childhood. There's definitely on my father's side, there's a strong gene for addiction, and so the crock pot had all the ingredients in it. We just needed to turn it on, and that's what me getting fired kind of did for me.
Would you say that was that a low point or the low point of your addiction around that time?
No, that was the start of it. That was the start of it.
What was the low point for you?
There's a number of them, man. There really is.
Well, let me rephrase that, because maybe it's not, maybe that's, I don't really feel like that's really such an important question as you hit a low point, but what is the turning point of that low point? Maybe I can ask it like that instead. Sure.
It's a great question, because it was gradual, and there was just incidents after incidents, and there was so much confusion. I'll tell you the low point, and I can speak in vague terms.
Yeah.
And give you I can paint you a picture. The low point for me was when the drugs and alcohol stopped working. And so I knew that I had to change, right? I knew that a change had to be made if I wanted to be reasonably happy. And so I'm a pretty intelligent guy. So the problem, of course, was the drugs and alcohol. So I stopped. I stopped doing drugs and I stopped drinking. But the problem for me was my life got considerably worse when I stopped.
That's funny how that happens.
Yeah. So I'm like, what is going on? So then I would pick up again. Yeah. And then my life would get worse. Yeah. And then I would stop. And then my life got worse. And I'm like, a real low point was the absolute confusion and hopelessness of my situation, because I couldn't use and drink and I could not use and drink and I didn't know what to do. So it got to the point where something inside of me broke, I think, where I just stopped caring. I didn't care if I got high. I didn't care if I didn't get high. I just stopped caring. I would get upset if I woke up in the morning, because that means I'd have to face another day of life. And nothing mattered. It was so gray that nothing mattered. Yeah. And it was so weird. That turning point happened when, I'm back home living with my mom, and she pulls me aside and she said, Zach, we're concerned about what's happening. Like, what's going on with you? Like, are you on drugs? Do you need help? Like, what's happening? And I didn't care to the point where I was actually honest with her. That's how much I didn't care. I said, listen, Mom, and here's the honest to God's truth. I'm sober right now, but next week I won't be. And I know that for a fact. And I don't want to be high next week. But I know I will be high, and I don't know what to do, and I'm scared. I said the words, I'm scared, and I don't know what to do. And that was the first domino in the chain of dominoes that fell for me in terms of getting treatment and then being sober from that point on.
That's crazy, man. That's like, it's that point of complete just almost surrender where you say, like, I'm scared. Like, you're literally at that point where you don't know what to do. And I've been there too, man. It's just like, but you know what's funny? I'm wondering if you can relate to this at all too, because I remember that moment, and I've talked about this before a little bit, but I remember that moment when I said to my wife, initially, was the first person I ever said it to, was, I'm an alcoholic and I need help. And I remember the fear in that, and the confusion, and the way that it made me feel to know that I was about to say, even before the words just started to creep up my throat and come out my mouth. But afterwards, bro, like there was this weird nostalgic feeling of like this weight just lifted off me, even though I knew there was this like super long battle ahead and I was going to have to go to rehab, and I knew I was like kind of letting the cat out of the bag. Like, did you kind of feel anything like that when you finally just kind of admitted to it too?
Yes. Yeah. And thank you for saying that. There was a conflict, though. There was one element of that, but also it was the weirdest thing. It was like an out-of-body experience, and I was looking down at myself saying these words, and then in my head, I'm like, Zach, shut the fuck up. You're blowing your cover.
Yeah, dude, totally, man.
I go, you're blowing your cover. Yeah. Like, if you say this, something's going to happen. Yeah. And you're not going to be able to get high.
Yep, that's exactly
So there was like these two things going on at the same time.
So crazy, man. Yeah, you're giving up that tool, you know that the cat's out of the bag, and that tool is going to be affected by it, because now people know, but man, that's super interesting. So what's the best thing? I'm just going to kind of fast forward here, unless there's anything else you want to touch on, just feel free to jump in. But, you go through recovery, you go through treatment, now how long have you been sober for, Zach?
A little over 7 years.
7 years. Okay. So, in that time, what is one of the best things for you about living a life, not only just free from alcohol and drugs, that's definitely the face of it. But when we work a program, and I'm still learning this on the daily, there's much more to it, just than not drinking or using drugs. It's really about how to learn to deal with life and relationships and all the good things that come in life, and also dealing with the struggles. What's one of the best tools that you use to really help you through that on the day-to-day basis?
For me, it comes down to connecting with another alcoholic or an addict and just sharing that connection. I find and it goes back to my first days in treatment when, I'm in this facility with, and in my wing, there were like 13 of us, with like 13 other dudes who spoke my language.
Yeah.
To me, that was so powerful. I'm like, oh, I'm not alone. That's so powerful. Like, there's so much hope in that.
Yeah.
And to this day, that's why I say I'm an alcoholic and addict, because I still think like one. I still have a brain of an alcoholic and addict. I'll still revert to, self-pity and anger and fear and all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
And then I'll kind of bottle it up and I won't share it. But as soon as, but the number one true way for me to kind of find some relief is by connecting with somebody else who's been through similar experiences, or just a like-minded individual. And to me, that changes my whole perspective on everything, man. It was so funny, dude. Real quick, a couple of days ago, a good example of that. Before a meeting, I get a text from my buddy saying that there's the new Nintendo Switch bundle is on sale at GameStop, right? And I've wanted a Nintendo Switch for a while. You talk about video game addiction.
What's a Nintendo Switch?
So it's the new Nintendo system, and it's
really, I didn't know
awesome.
They came out with them. I just saw the one that those bastards made sure that they sold out of around Christmas. The little NES, the throwback one, which was cool. This is different.
This is what brand new, different.
Really?
This is what Nintendo does. They limit their supply to drive up demand, right? And it totally worked on me.
Yeah.
They did that with the one you're talking about, and they have the new one now that's sold out everywhere, and you can't get it. Really? Anyway, I got the alert that it's available, and I'm like, yes, finally. And it's been out for months, but it hasn't been available since it came out. And long story short, 2 minutes later, I spent $600 on this brand new thing without consulting my wife about it. And we share a bank account, right? And then all this instant remorse and why did I do that? And then my wife's gonna be so I'm so impulsive and stupid at a certain point, and then I'm carrying this around, and then so it's kind of eating me up, and I talked to my wife about it, and she's surprisingly cool with it. But we'll talk. We'll continue that conversation. But the point is, I started carrying around this guilt and this shame, and I'm so dumb, and why did I do that? And impulsive. That's old behavior. What's wrong with me? And then as soon as I shared the story with another alcoholic, and he started laughing, the relief came. It wasn't laughing at me. It was a laugh of recognition.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a great example, man. We still have that impulsive personality, and thank God it wasn't a huge bag of dope. You know what I mean? That you went out and bought instead. But still, it's the same concept. And if we're not careful and we're not open about these things, it's something like that may seem silly to somebody who out there who doesn't understand what it's like to be locked up in addiction. But to your point, it makes perfect sense to someone who does. And I think that your tool that you use in just connecting with another alcoholic or addict is huge. And we should all be, all of us who are dealing with that should be up at the forefront of our recovery program.
Yeah, that works for me, man. You said it perfect.
Okay, well, I just I want to be conscious of your time, man. Dude, this has been one of my favorite conversations, man. I really appreciate you coming on. You're a great guy and just doing some amazing work. I'm really looking forward to looking into some more of your work now that we've got to chat and whatnot. Two things. Let me get one last question off, and then we're going to talk about climbing a volcano with the range of motion team that you're looking to do pretty soon. So. First, I want to ask you this. For anyone out there listening, whether they're dealing with addiction or maybe they have a family member who is, or maybe they're just dealing with a challenge in their life. Maybe it's something that has nothing to do with addiction. It's just we all do deal with challenges. Obviously, you're a person who has faced many of these, since you were a kid all the way through your adult life and into recovery now. If you could give one piece of advice to somebody out there listening, how do you create opportunity out of a challenge?
Oh man, that's what my whole keynote is about. It's about taking obstacles and challenges and turning them into opportunities, and the life is in the middle. That's where life exists. The life isn't about what happens to us. It's about how we respond to what happens to us, right? And so for me, the greatest thing is a total acceptance of whatever the situation is, and then I look at and I draw on a sheet of paper. And this is a perfect exercise. It's something I learned early on, and something I still do. And on one side of the column are things I can control, and on the other side are things I can't control, right? So there's two different columns. So the things I can control are simply, if you boil them down, my attitude, my actions, and my reactions to life. That's it. And then on the things I can't control, go everything else. Literally, like everything else. People, places, things, relationships, situations, events. I can't control any of that. Yeah. But if I focus on myself, and if I ask for help, and if I take suggestions, and I ask for guidance, and I take action, things have a really great way of working themselves out. And it's not just like, 20% of the time or 50% of the time. Yeah. For me, it's 100% of the time. If I focus on things I can control in my actions, and I ask for help, and I take guidance, things have always worked out for me that way.
That's awesome, man. That's great advice, man. I appreciate you dropping the little exercise too, because I do think that's an important exercise, and it's something that's simple too. Anybody can do it. You just get a piece of paper and a pen and get after it. And there's something very powerful about writing this stuff out. So I'd encourage anyone out there listening to grab a pen, grab a piece of paper if you're struggling with that right now, and do the exercise Zach just mentioned, because I think it can really help. So you're trying to climb a volcano, man. Last thing before we wrap this up, what is the deal with that, dude? That sounds incredible. I don't know much about it. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know much about it either. I guess I'll figure it out. Like my motto in life is I'll figure it out. Like I didn't know how to be a wrestler. I didn't know how to be a speaker. I didn't know how to be a guy who climbs volcanoes. Yeah. But I'll figure it out. And the deal is, it's the Range of Motion Project, and what they do, it's a nonprofit, and they provide proper prosthetic care for people in developing countries that don't have access to proper prosthetic care. And it's a really powerful thing, because what they do is they give the gift of mobility, something we all take for granted, to people that don't have access to that. And then with that, they can get back to work, and they can provide for their families and communities. And it's a wonderful, it's the most impressive. I went to their clinic last year in Guatemala to see them actually go to work and do what they do. And it's the most impressive group of people I've ever seen in my life. It's the greatest charity I've ever worked for in my life. And so what we're doing this year is as an event of solidarity for the cause, is me and 15 other amputees. We're going to climb a volcano in Ecuador at the end of July, and in an effort to raise funds and awareness for the Range of Motion Project. And it's going to be an absolute epic event. There's going to be, it's very literal and very metaphorical at the same time. And it's just going to be something that I'm so glad I'm able to be a part of, and that's really what I see my life. I just do stuff in life. Last year it was the Ninja Warrior thing, and this year I'm climbing a mountain. Who knows what's going to happen next year? Yeah, but, we didn't even talk about the Ninja Warrior thing, man. That's unbelievable too. We'll put a link to the YouTube. Sure. Piece in there, and folks can check that out too, because that's a whole another part of this journey for you. And that was just in 2016, right? Yeah, that was last summer. And really it's all of this is the same to me, whether it's Ninja Warrior or at a school or WWE or climbing a mountain. These are just platforms for me to carry a message of hope, man. And I'm excited about life, and I'm excited to finally be part of life, and I celebrate that every day, man.
Well, it's great. It's great to talk to you, and your excitement. Let me just tell you right now. Obviously, we haven't met in person. I hope to do that one day, man. But your excitement bleeds through, and it's just it's very encouraging and exciting to meet people like you and to get to talk to people like you. I'm really honored to do so. And please let us know. Let me know when. As the climb of the volcano gets closer, and as you're starting to promote that and look at it more, if there's anything we can do to help, man, I'd love to just plug it on the show as it gets closer and help you guys in any way we can. It's super cool.
That'd be great. Well, right now I'm crowdfunding this whole trip.
Awesome.
And so it's if you go to crowdrise.com, /Zack Gowen, all one word. There's a link there so if you're inspired to help, or any of your listeners are inspired to help, whatever that looks like, if you could help me get there, that would be terrific, because it's definitely going to be something that's going to cost a little bit, and then of course to raise money for the wonderful project as well. That would be awesome, man.
Yeah, that's great. We will we'll be sure that link, folks, will be in the show notes, as well as if you want to check out Zack's top 30 moves in wrestling, which is super cool to take a look at. And then ZackGowen.com if you'd like any more information. And then if anyone wants to reach out to you or find more info, is there anything else or is there anywhere else they could do that at, Zack?
Yeah, all the social media stuff is at Zack Gowen. Also, if you go to ZackGowen.com and click on the contact, fill out that form that goes right to my email, and I'll be happy to be in touch with you.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again for coming on today and sharing a bit about your story, about your recovery. Truly inspirational and pretty amazing, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Shane. Thanks so much for having me, man. I've probably got more out of this than anybody else, so I'm grateful for that.
Thanks for listening today. For more information or resources, go to www.thatsoberguy.com. Peace, love, respect. Keep your blood clean.